Have you ever felt like you're stuck on a hamster wheel, running in place but going nowhere? That was Ethan's life. Every morning, the same alarm clock, the same bland oatmeal, the same commute to a job that paid the bills but starved his soul. His days were a blur of spreadsheets and meetings, followed by evenings of microwave dinners and mindless scrolling. It was comfortable, predictable, and soul-crushingly empty. He had a nice apartment, a stable job, a life many would envy, but inside, Ethan felt like a ghost haunting his own existence. The vibrant colors of his youth had faded to grayscale. Was this all there was? The question echoed in the quiet corners of his mind, a constant nagging whisper. He'd scrolled through photos of friends traveling, starting families, launching businesses. Each picture was a small reminder of the life he wasn't living. He felt trapped, not by walls, but by the velvet chains of comfort and routine. He yearned for something more, but the what and the how were giant, terrifying question marks. One rainy Tuesday, everything changed. While grabbing his usual sad desk lunch, he bumped into Sarah, a woman who used to work on his team. He barely recognized her. The tired, stressed person he remembered was gone. In her place was someone vibrant, her eyes sparkling with a kind of energy he hadn't seen in years. She told him she'd quit their corporate job 6 months ago to become a park ranger. A park ranger? Ethan was stunned. He remembered her being just as burnt out as he was. "Weren't you scared?" he asked, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. Sarah smiled, a genuine, unforced smile. "Terrified," she admitted, "but I was more scared of waking up at 60 and realizing I'd never actually lived." She talked about the scent of pine trees after a storm, the satisfaction of maintaining a trail, the joy of seeing a child's face light up at the sight of a deer. Her story wasn't a grand tale of overnight success. It was a story of choosing a different kind of life, one measured in sunsets, not spreadsheets. That conversation was a spark in the darkness of Ethan's routine. He walked back to his desk, but he didn't see the numbers on his screen. He saw forests and mountains. For the first time in a long time, he felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, change was possible for him too. That night, Ethan didn't turn on the TV. He laced up his old running shoes and walked to a nearby park he'd driven past 1,000 times but never entered. The air was cool and fresh, a stark contrast to his stuffy apartment. He just walked, with no destination in mind, listening to the rustle of leaves and the distant city hum. It was a small step, almost insignificant, but it felt monumental. It was a deviation from the script he'd been following for years. This one small act of rebellion opened a door. The next weekend, instead of sleeping in, he drove to a state park Sarah had mentioned. He felt clumsy and out of place among the experienced hikers, but he kept going. He was breathing heavily, his muscles ached. But when he reached the summit and looked out over the sprawling valley, he felt a sense of accomplishment he hadn't felt from any work project. It was real, it was his, and it was glorious. He realized that the life he wanted wasn't a destination he had to reach overnight. It was a path he had to start walking, one step at a time. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with a thrilling sense of possibility. Ethan's journey wasn't a straight line to happiness. It was full of messy detours and clumsy attempts. Inspired by the stars he saw on his hike, he bought a cheap telescope. His first few nights were a comedy of errors. He couldn't figure out how to focus it. He'd pointed at what he thought was Jupiter only to find it was a streetlight, and he nearly dropped the whole thing more than once. He felt foolish and frustrated. The old voice of self-doubt crept back in, telling him he was wasting his time, that he should just stick to what he knew. But then he remembered Sarah's words and the feeling he had on that summit. So he didn't give up. He watched countless online tutorials, joined a local astronomy forum, and kept trying. One clear, cold night, he finally managed to focus on Saturn. Seeing its rings, faint and shimmering millions of miles away, was a moment of pure, unadulterated wonder. It was a profound reminder of how vast the universe was, and how small his own self-imposed limitations were. It wasn't about becoming a professional astronomer. It was about the simple, profound joy of seeing something new. Next, on a whim, he signed up for a pottery class. His first creation was a lopsided, wobbly bowl that looked more like a melted ashtray. He watched others in the class effortlessly centering their clay and pulling up beautiful, elegant shapes, while his just collapsed into a sad, muddy heap. The familiar sting of failure was sharp. He wanted to quit, to retreat back to the safety of his predictable life, where he could end fail because he never tried anything new. But something had shifted inside him. He was learning that failure wasn't the end. It was just part of the process. So he showed up the next week and the week after that. He learned to laugh at his wonky creations. He started to enjoy the feeling of the cool, wet clay spinning through his hands. It was tactile and real, a welcome antidote to his digital-first life. He wasn't trying to become a master potter. He was just enjoying the act of creating, of making something with his own two hands, no matter how imperfect. Each failed bowl, each blurry planet was a lesson. He was learning to embrace the messiness of being a beginner, to find joy not just in the destination, but in the clumsy, beautiful, and often hilarious journey of getting there. Months passed. Ethan's life looked different now, not in a dramatic, movie montage kind of way. He still worked at his corporate job, but it no longer defined him. His evenings and weekends were now filled with new textures and experiences. He knew the best trails in the local parks. He could identify a few constellations, and he had a shelf full of proudly imperfect pottery. He'd even started a small blog to share his bumbling adventures as a professional beginner, connecting with a small community of others who were also trying to break free from their ruts. He still had bad days. Days where the monotony felt overwhelming, where the comfort of the old routine seemed tempting. But now, he knew how to fight back. He knew that a walk in the park or an hour at the pottery wheel could reset his perspective. He wasn't a new person. He was the same Ethan, but he had reconnected with the parts of himself he thought will last forever: his curiosity, his sense of wonder, his capacity for joy. He was no longer a ghost in his own life. He was the author, messy handwriting and all. Ethan's story isn't about quitting your job and hiking the Appalachian Trail, unless that's what you truly want. It is about the quiet revolution that happens when you decide to take one small step off the well-trodden path. It's about the courage to be a beginner, to be imperfect, and to fail. It's about rediscovering that life isn't about finding the one perfect passion, but about collecting moments of joy, wonder, and connection. So if you're feeling stuck, if you feel that nagging whisper telling you there has to be more, listen to it. You don't need to have a grand plan. Just do one small thing you've never done before. Visit that park you always drive by. Sign up for that class you've been curious about. Look up at the stars. The goal isn't to transform your life overnight. The goal is to simply start living it, one messy, beautiful, imperfect step at a time. Ethan's journey shows us that the most profound adventures often begin not with a giant leap, but with the simple, brave decision to try. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to look for the wonder in your own backyard. Subscribe for more stories that inspire.